Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is UK schools and UK universities. And I'm delighted to welcome Agnes Arungo, Cam Stylianou, and Nicola Elener along to join me, John Milne, in presenting to you the benefits to your children of a UK school and or UK university education. I'm John Milne, and I'm the CEO of the English Education. I'm a former headmaster of British boarding schools and international schools overseas. I have worked for the English Education since 2019, working with families to ensure that their children are placed into the right settings for them in both boarding schools in the UK and into UK universities. At the English Education, we really pride ourselves on properly understanding each and every individual child, understanding the family's aspirations and matching them to the most appropriate setting for them. We have a 100% success rate because we place children into the best setting for them. And our approach is very tailored and bespoke. Not only do we find the best school or university for the child or for the children, but we also offer a significant amount of additional support in the form of tutoring or assessment or screening and or mentoring and coaching as well. I'm delighted to welcome onto the webinar today Agnes, who is TEE's partner in Africa. Agnes is based in Nairobi in Kenya, and we're delighted to be working and launching in Africa because we see huge potential, not just in Kenya, but across wider Africa for families looking for the best educational outcomes for their children. And we believe that the UK is one of the top settings in the world for that. Agnes, welcome. It's lovely to see you. And I know that you have two children of your own in UK universities. I just wonder if you could tell everyone why the UK, how are your children getting on, and what do you see as some of the benefits of being in partnership with TEE in Africa?
Thank you, John, and hello, everyone. This is very exciting to have this meeting this evening. Yes, John, I have my three children have been through the British curriculum from two of them from actually year one. And my firstborn, you can be sure, is always blaming me for not doing the UK curriculum because she did the Kenyan system, but she's a doctor, so she can still thank me for it. But we when we started, because we started our kids anyway so earlier in the UK schools here in Kenya, then it was almost automatic that we take them to the UK universities. My daughter is actually graduating on 9th of December in the UK, and my son just joined another university again in the UK. And for me, what happened is that what I saw with my kids is that they built their reasoning capacity very fast, very young. Up to today, I can't win an argument with my kids because the curriculum is not just doing academics. It's not just, sometimes they come and ask me questions and I can't answer. And I tell you, I still went to some school. So it's amazing. And then now, of course, regarding TEE, when I was introduced to the organization and I understood how you do and how TEE does the recruitment to the schools, I was attracted to the fact that you do mentorship, you work with the family as a whole, you don't just register a child, send papers, and let the child, land in a school. You take care of the child through the process together with the family. And because I'm a mentor to young people, I've mentored my kids' friends since they were in year one, and now some have even graduated. That attracted me because at the moment, as we know, the young people need a lot of support, and this is what you're offering to these kids. So yeah, I'm glad to be now, enjoined to you and look forward to what's coming next. I am sure it is going to be a great ride. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Agnes, and we're very excited as well. And if you're interested in knowing more about TE Africa, we have presence on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we'll be sharing Agnes's details at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions, then please do enter them into the Q&A channel, and I'll be happy to pose those as the webinar goes along. We do have a Q&A session at the very end, but we're going to kick off by welcoming Nicola to not just the webinar, but also to the TEE team. We announced yesterday that Nicola is going to be our school's partnership lead in the UK. So we're delighted that Nicola has joined us. And as you'll have read from the webinar introduction, Nicola is a very experienced school placement consultant. She's a former registrar and admissions director at 7 different UK schools, including Giggleswick and Elise and Cambridge. So comes with a vast amount of experience both in schools and also working with families and their children. And Nicola's just going to talk us through why boarding schools and in particular why sixth form within boarding schools in the UK. Welcome, Nicola. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much, John. It's an absolute privilege to be here. Thank you. And yes, it's an area that I am so passionate about. I have been in 7 schools over the last 20 years, and long may it continue, albeit I am now on the other side. So that works really well, actually, because I have seen both sides. I've worked in schools and now I'm on the recruitment side, placing students. So, sixth form, if you have arrived at this magical decision to attend a boarding school in the UK for sixth form, I'm not going to really talk about the nuts and bolts of the admissions process because we can talk about that later. And as Agnes has just alluded to, TEE will walk with you. We will see you right through for the whole journey. So I'm really just going to try and hopefully get you excited, more excited about joining boarding schools. So, community. What is the community? What are you joining when you join a sixth form in a boarding school in the UK? Well, I know from experience it's going to be a magical, magical feeling of belonging to your unique school community. And it's not just during your stay, during those 2 years, it actually carries on for the rest of your life. And you will find yourself returning to the school with your own children. And there are so many events that you then attend also after you leave the school. So it's from the day you join, you are part of that unbelievable school community, very tight in the sixth form. You will absolutely make friends for life, or your children will make friends for life. And my own son, he attended a boarding school and he's now 30. He got married in September and practically his whole school year, and he joined from year 8. His whole school year were at his wedding. And that for me was what it was all about. That from joining at 12 to then getting married at 30, he was still with the friends that he boarded with. So it's really, we want to emphasize the studying, but we also want to emphasize the living conditions, the fun they have together, and it goes all the way through the school year. They have holidays together. It just is, again, magical community. The future, when you look into the future, when you've done your 2 years, you are part of the alumni, as I've said, and you really are you're just put in a position where your networking opportunities are vast, all around the world. So it's not just in the UK, wherever your friends live, wherever their parents are, you just then join this huge networking experience after your stay. But I always say to every student that passes my door, that comes into the school that I've worked in or that I'm placing, you only get out of it what you put in. So if you are a child who wants to stay in your room on your phone, it's not for you. We want you to arrive and say yes to absolutely everything that's put in your way, everything that you are offered. Please try and say yes, even if it's opportunities you didn't think you were going to have, if it's activities that you have perhaps never been involved in before. Try and say yes. You will make new friends from doing something like rock climbing or art or drama, if you hadn't considered it, please consider it. You will get so much out of the experience, more than you even imagined. And it is an opportunity for you to choose a school with a set criteria of maybe sport that you want to do or to continue doing. And yes, of course, you will hone your skills. You will have teachers and departments that will still encourage you to do what you want to do, but then bolt on other activities and other opportunities. So on that first slide about community, really the overriding impression I'd like you to take away from this is be involved, be part of that amazing school community. Okay, if I had a pound or a dollar for every time I was asked, is the school like Harry Potter? Is it like Hogwarts? You will find probably at this stage, if you've done some research already, maybe you've heard of school names. When you go on the school websites, they are super impressive. We have the most extraordinary campuses in the UK. You will see historical mixed with modern. You will get that feeling, I'm sure, of it being like Hogwarts. It's really important for you to take on board. Yes, your surroundings, yes, the buildings that you're going to be in, but it's really far more important to know the community that you're going to be with and to really choose and help TEE help you choose and suggest schools that maybe are the best fit for you. And you never imagined that to begin with. So we'll work together. We'll find a balance. There will be a lot of questions asked about your criteria, what your aspirations are, your academic aspirations, what you're involved in. The world-class facilities in these schools are second to none. So you won't be disappointed, but we need to get to know you more in order for us to come back with the select schools that we think would be the best fit for you. So this process really starts with lots of questions, lots of probing, and we want you to be really open with what your criteria and what your aspirations are. You will live in a boarding house, and it's really worth knowing. This is to the parents probably. When you visit, if you visit, you're going to have a very different impression of the boarding house to what your son or daughter will have. Your son or daughter won't mind what the boarding house is like. It will be home from home. They will be with their friends and they will be really well taken care of. There's a whole team of people in the boarding houses, from the housemaster, house mistress, matron, the tutors that visit. It makes up for this one lovely home from home. And your children will be having sleepovers every night with their best friends. So keep that in mind. If you visit schools or if you do your research, parents, you will have a different impression than your children. Really important for us to know as well the location that you're interested in. And we will glean all of this information from you when we have our first chat. When John meets with you, or I meet with you, or Agnes, we will find out what your criteria are. But it is important for you to do some research now. Start thinking about what's important to you. It might not be the same as what's important to your child, but we find the middle ground. Eventually, we get to know what each of you would like, the criteria. I do just want to talk about the safety of these boarding schools. They take it really seriously. The senior leadership team and the whole school community take your child's safety and well-being really serious. And we can touch more on that when we meet, but we can't impress enough that there are regulations, that there are policies. We want to keep your children safe at all times. There will be times where your child feels as though they're having their wings clipped because they have to sign in, they have to sign out. We need to know where they are at all times, but they get used to that. It's something that's instilled from the moment they arrive, but we just need to express, we keep your children safe. Thank you, John. Okay, touched on it a little bit. The boarding houses and the whole school community is all about home sweet home. We do want your children to arrive and feel not only that they're in a place of study, but they're actually in a place that feels like home, that they're with their friends, they're with their mentors, and that they're really being taken care of in their boarding houses. As with well-being and safety, the pastoral care and the pastoral team are really important in your child's and your life. We really like to get parents involved. We really like to get the relationships built from day one. So most schools will invite you to be in touch with the house mistresses, the house masters, the matron, the tutors. It's a two-way street. It's not just about the school contacting you. We want you to be involved with the school. And if that means that you live close enough by that you can fly over and be with your child for a weekend, that's what we want you to do, to come and be involved in their music, their sports, a drama production, or just to come and visit them and take them out for the day. We want you to be involved. It's about the whole family relationship. So pastoral care and the boarding house is really important to you and your family. What I want the children to do, though, before they even get to the school, and this is something that starts the relationship building with friends, ask them about what they would like to do in terms of leadership, or what would they like to do in terms of being involved in drama. We can organise for auditions to take place for the school production, for instance. So if you've got a budding actor, please let the school know, let us know, because we can set up meetings with the drama departments or the science or the sports. Get involved before your child starts the school. We really want them to feel immersed before they even join on the first day. With houses, with boarding houses, it's important to know as well that there's a really healthy competition within schools with the boarding houses. So when you start and you join and you go to your bedroom for the first time and you unpack and you decorate your room, know that that's your boarding house for your duration. Know that that's where home is and where all your friends are. But also know you will be competing in many ways when you're part of a boarding house. And that's really important in the interview for us to discuss what ways do you want to be involved in school? Do you feel maybe sometimes that you would like to really do something in a leadership role? We can ask about prefects and the for international students to become prefects. So that's also for you to know. You can show your leadership. You can progress and develop within that certain role. But the boarding house and the pastoral care starts from day one. Thank you, John. Okay, I am going to touch on academics just briefly because it will actually be quite a large part of the whole admissions process, but it's just to really get you thinking about what are your subjects, what are your strengths, what do you really enjoy? Because that will be something that comes up with your interview with the school. Maybe you'll be meeting with the head of sixth form. We can elaborate and discuss this in detail, but it's just for you to be thinking about what are my predicted grades? What subjects do I really enjoy? What give me headaches, but I still want to continue with that? Any little niggles that you might have that you would like to perhaps speak to a subject teacher, we can arrange that. So at this moment in time, it's just for you to be thinking about your combinations of subjects and what do you really enjoy. And we will really get you the help with that too. If you're worried about what your combination of subjects should be, don't worry, we will talk to the school. It's not just an admissions process where you're not involved. There's a lot of communication backwards and forwards. We want to make sure that you're doing everything right for you. And the teachers within the schools, they are so passionate. They want the very best outcome for you. So they are super motivated to get to know you as an individual and help you achieve your dreams, help you achieve what you're hoping to, the university you're hoping to go to, the course you're hoping to study. It's at this point that we need to tell you that you will get our support, but you will get the school support too. So it's not just about what we say at TEE. The schools will be involved with you and get the resources and information for you. When you're in the school, it's also important to know that you will have a lot of support, not only during the classroom time, but as when you go into your independent study time, when you're in the boarding house, you will have help whenever you need it. But I can't stress enough, you need to ask for it. If a teacher has noticed that you're doing okay and that you're just coasting, they won't let you coast. They will try and help you to stretch yourself even more. But they love it if you ask for help and you will get it. So make the most of your 2 years. Ask for help because it's there for you.
Thanks,
Um,
Nicola. Just a quick question, Nicola, if that's
yeah,
okay. So we've had a
yeah.
question asking whether or not boarding schools in the UK port applications to other countries than just the UK. Obviously, we're here to promote the UK university scene, but we know that there are other good options out there. How well
Yes.
versed are boarding schools in supporting students into Europe or into the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand? What does that look like?
For us supporting a student that doesn't want to go to the UK but wants to maybe look at other options.
Yes, so
Yeah.
within the boarding schools, I mean, we can help with that, but within the boarding schools, how do the schools prepare students for other destinations and not just UK universities?
Again, it's all about the head of sixth form usually. There's normally also a careers advisor, and I'm sure Cam will be able to talk about that later on. Um, every school I've worked in, they've always had the supports, and even if it's an obscure school in a country that maybe we haven't sent students to before, they will do the research. So your child will never be sent away saying, I've got no idea, you'll have to do that yourself, do your own
Mm.
research. That doesn't happen. The schools are motivated. The head of sixth forms are brilliant sources of information. And usually it's schools or universities or colleges that their students have been to previously. So they already have those connections. And it's not unusual for them to want to spread their wings even further and go to different destinations.
Thanks, Nicola.
Okay, I'm really passionate about this. It's something that well, over the years, I've always said to students when they arrive, always ask your friends, ask your teachers, tell them all about your culture, tell them where you're from. More often than not, the teaching staff and the community have had students from that location before, whatever the location is. But I always want them to learn how to say their names, pronounce their names correctly. Don't try and change their names or shorten their names. Keep your identity, share your culture, be proud of where you've come from. Yes, you're having a different experience in a country that you aspire to go and study in, but don't lose yourself. And I absolutely love it when you see these students coming from all corners of the globe, coming to one classroom, coming into one boarding house, and having that respect for each other. And it's really, you think it's so logical to just say, remember who you are. You really have to be conscious about it. And I'm also mindful that we have students that maybe they haven't left home before, they haven't been away from their friends before, they might be coming for a short break, they might be coming for the 2 years. And I just say, try and, with our help, they don't have to do this on their own. Think of some icebreakers for your first day. Think of what you can say to people about where you've come from, because as soon as you've said one sentence, you're making friends. And to reassure you as well, the schools take it really seriously and integrate their new students very well. So they have activities that they've organised. You might arrive and then you've got a barbecue in the evening and it's with the whole school community. It's just a lovely way for you to say, this is me, this is where I'm from, let's share. It's so important to say, so where are you from? And then you get to make friends really quickly and really easily. We want to celebrate your traditions. We want to celebrate your festivals. Be the individual. What you wear can identify who you are too, and that's lovely. Don't sort of Don't dim your light. Just be you. And that's who we want to see. We want to see these lovely individuals coming in from all over the world. Okay, I am going to breeze over this one because this is the nuts and bolts that I was talking about. It is a confusing process to navigate. If you're doing it on your own, it's where to start, where do I look, what do I Google? Every time you Google something, a different search will come up. Different schools will come up into your search. You probably won't know one way from the other which way to look. They all start looking the same when you've got 20 schools on the go that you're looking at. So let us do the hard work. Let us put in the legwork to then come to you with schools that we would suggest would be the best fit for your child.
Thanks, Nicola. That
Thank
was
you.
wonderful and an excellent overview of life in a British boarding school. And I'm sure we'll have lots of questions as the webinar goes on. But we're going to push on now and we're going to look at UK universities. And I'm delighted to welcome Cam onto the webinar. I've known Cam for a number of years now. And because I'm also working in the guidance counselor space internationally, and the more I mention Cam's name, the more I'm blown away by how much regard he has amongst her peers internationally. Cam is a British Council certified counsellor, and in 2024 was invited to join the Times Higher Education European International Schools Advisory Board. So that just gives you a sense of how highly regarded Cam is. But fundamentally, like Nicola, and like many guidance counselors around the world, Cam is renowned for her compassion, her empathy, and her attention to detail. So I'm really pleased and delighted to have you on the webinar today, Cam. And now that I've bigged you up, I'm expecting fireworks. But we're now going to delve into UK universities, which is such a natural progression following on from Nicola's wonderful presentation about boarding schools. And over to you.
Yes, thank you. So I'd just like to start by commenting on Nicola's point about how UK schools can support students going to global universities. Because through the Times Higher network, I know a lot of the UK counsellors, and they're doing a fantastic job supporting students going wherever the students want to go. So I don't think there's any issue there with the British school counsellors. They're really global in terms of where they send their students. So I've been working with a lot of students over many years, and I have seen the effects of British education on many, many students. And they often come back and see me after they've completed their studies. And when they talk to me, I think, wow, this student has really changed. And that is all down to the amazing education that they're provided with in the UK. So I think for international students, the global reputation is really, really important because these students will often return to their home countries. And I know from Cyprus, when students come back with a UK education, it's very, very significant in helping them get a good job when they come home. In the UK, we have a reputation for excellence in higher education. 17 of the UK universities are ranked in the top 100 QS world ranking this year. So that sort of gives the idea of where UK universities stand in terms of the rest of the world. You have a great range of universities to choose from, so students can really do a lot of research and find their best fit university from over 165 institutions. I think as a parent of two international students who've been through the UK system as well, I think the fact that there's so much support for students is really, really important. They are very well equipped to deal with international students from all over the world. And what I've noticed from working in schools abroad, The universities come out, they visit the schools, they often get to know the students before they even go to the UK, so that when they go, they've got a familiar face in the recruitment department or on the international team who will welcome them personally and who will provide, all the information that they need. So they have organised welcome weeks for when students arrive. There's lots of systems of support in place. They will provide things like airport pickups as part of the welcome week, so the whole family can sort of be greeted at the airport. And it's a really nice way to get to know other students and student ambassadors. I think if you compare European destinations with the UK, the accommodation that is on offer for students in the UK is really top notch. There's a great range of accommodation that students can choose from. And certainly for many of the students I work with, this is a really important factor for them. Some of them want to have their comforts on their own. They want to stay in a studio flat, and they can do that easily because there's many private student halls as well as university accommodation. When I talk to students, I do encourage them to stay with other students because I think a lot of the socializing and a lot of the making friends part happens in the kitchen, especially when the students are learning to cook together and things like that. I think it's a really valuable part of being a student. I think also for parents, safety is very important. And what I've noticed when I go to visit campuses in the UK, I'm always impressed with the setup they have, the transport they provide. Often they will put on a night bus to collect students from nightclubs and things like that. They will be in touch with local taxi networks for students. So I think a lot of careful thought goes into student safety, like it does in the schools, as we've heard from Nicola. Opportunities and scholarships. I think the UK universities provide amazing opportunities, and I've seen this from my students and from my own children. So I always encourage them to take up these opportunities, to get really involved in student life. And I think things like becoming a student ambassador is a really good thing to do because it's not only work experience, but it's learning how to talk to people, how to present yourself, and also it connects you really closely to the university. There are many opportunities to travel, to do social activities. And I think what Nicola said about making the most of these opportunities is really good for international students. And what I noticed from my children is they spent the time going around the world visiting all the people that they'd met at university. And we were hosting lots and lots of students coming over from various different places, which is part of the social education because going to university is not only academic. I also encourage students to look for scholarships because I think applying for scholarships is always a really good thing to do because it's something that's prestigious on your CV. It gives you the experience of applying for something competitive. So when I work with students, I do encourage them to try and go for these opportunities. So looking at universities in a bit more detail, in the UK, you will find different types of universities. So if we look at the collegiate system, these are universities made up of colleges. So the most well-known ones are Oxford and Cambridge. We also have Durham, Lancaster, York. They all operate some form of a collegiate system. I think that's really nice, particularly for international students, because the students are involved in a smaller community, so they get to know each other really, really well. And what I've noticed, particularly about students who go to Oxford or Cambridge, When they graduate, they might have studied engineering or a science subject, but they can usually talk to you about any other subject because they spend a lot of time talking to other students who are studying philosophy or literature. And I think that gives them an additional advantage in terms of broadening their outlook. Then we have campus universities like Bath, Loughborough, Nottingham. And what's really noticeable about these campus universities, I think, is often the sports facilities, because they have a lot of space often. You will find the most amazing facilities for sport, particularly at universities which are well known for sport, like Bath and like Loughborough. Then in some areas, you will find a sort of multi-campus situation, like in London, where campuses are spread around and they might be organized according to the subjects they teach and that sort of thing. And then we have city universities like Manchester and Bristol. And I think students really need to think about what type of environment they feel comfortable in. So sometimes I have students who come to me, and because they live on a small island, they want the big city. They want to experience the UK city life. So they will look at London, Manchester, Bristol, these kind of cities. So that's an important consideration. You've probably heard of the Russell Group, which is a group of 24 research universities. They get many of the grants for research. And what makes this very significant for students is that the teaching and the work that goes on in those universities is often really based on cutting edge research, and the teaching they receive feeds into obviously the student outcomes. So that's an important and prestigious label, if you like, for those universities. I think the most well-known ones are obviously Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, UCL. All of these big names will be in the Russell Group. I think another reason for the UK is the number and the breadth of course options you have. So students can really choose, for example, if they want to do business, they can look at a particular course that gives them an internship or a sandwich year where they're working in industry. And from the students that I've worked with, those who have spent a year in industry really gain a lot from that, because when they go back to university, they've learned so much from their work experience that I think they've researched this, that the students tend to perform better and get a higher degree after they've finished their work experience. The other reason for choosing an internship course would be that often students are offered employment after they've spent a year with a company, because the companies use these interns to see if they're actually of interest to them after they graduate. You can find courses that are really interesting, like the Flying Start course, which is an accounting and finance course that it includes placements with PwC, and it's very closely aligned, obviously, with PwC, and students can get paid in blocks of their degree course. So for Cypriot students where I'm based, this is a very nice option for them, because they would come back and work for PwC in Cyprus. Students can choose joint honour programmes. So if they're not quite sure what they want to study and they like two subjects, they can combine them, or they can choose major subjects with a minor in a different subject. So there are a lot of options for them when they're looking at their courses. And I think working with an experienced counsellor is really important when you choose your course, because you really need to look at what you're going to be learning and whether it is what you want to study. Finally, moving to Scotland, a word about Scotland. The courses are 1 year longer, and this is something that students obviously sometimes don't expect. So it's good to look at the Scottish system carefully. The first year is more broad. So if you choose a course like engineering, you can choose other courses as well to complement that. So you could choose from English literature, or you could choose from basically any of the different degree courses. So this adds breadth to your education. And I think it's a very good reason for looking into Scotland if you want that breadth of study, which is more like the American system. And a word about qualifications. Students, particularly international students, should look carefully at the type of degree that they're going to get. It might be whether they're going to get a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts, a Bachelor of Engineering, or whether they wish to go for an undergraduate master's in engineering. So I think it's important to look at the types of qualifications that you get from a UK university. So here I'm going to talk a little bit more in terms of building on what Nicola has said about the boarding schools. I think it's really important to consider the social life that your children are going to experience in the UK. So all the universities have a student union who organise an amazing range of activities for students. Currently, Sheffield University is very proud to have the student union that has been voted #1 in the country. So they're doing a brilliant job. And when you visit Sheffield University, it's very obvious that the student union is really active. And they organise a lot of clubs and societies. I think Warwick have over 300 different clubs that you can choose from, which is really good because students of any background can definitely find maybe a club that has students from their country or a particular sport or a hobby that they want to take up. And what's really good is that these clubs are often subsidized. So you can do things that you might not normally be able to afford at a cheaper rate. For example, you can go on skiing trips and things like that, obviously at student fees. I think also joining societies is a really good way to build your CV, because I've noticed that often when students are looking for graduate employment, they will be asked a lot about their clubs and their involvement in other activities, not just academics. The focus in interviews is often based on what they've done over and above their course. So that's an important aspect, and it's very good in the UK. Then there are lots of opportunities for travel, so they can go on field trips if they're studying architecture or geography or even science. They might get involved in different trips around the world. There are projects they can work on abroad, and even sports teams sometimes travel as well. Having had two children who were hockey players, they really got involved in their sport at university. And there's a very good British University and College Sport League, which is called the Bucks League, that the universities take really seriously. So teams go around the country, they play other universities. And for international students, it's a really good way of seeing the country because they visit so many different universities and towns. So they can get actively involved in different levels of sport, maybe ultra competitive or just playing for fun. Then I think for me, one of the most important aspects is careers and networking. There's a huge focus on this in UK universities, and they have dedicated careers teams who work with students from year one. And it's really, really important to get involved in activities to do with careers and networking from such an early time in your university career. And I think this is an area where the UK excel compared to many other systems around the world. So internships and work experience, obviously the students are supported by the careers offices to get these opportunities, and they will help them through CV writing and applying for jobs. The UK give you a graduate visa for at least 18 months after you finish. So it's a good opportunity to get some work experience and look for a good job if students want to stay in the UK. And last but not least is the social life. This is really, really important for young people and for their well-being. So obviously, there's a lot going on with so many young people on campus. There are always loads and loads of activities for them. So moving on to
Can I
how
just
to, yeah, yeah.
just jump in there? Sorry, there's a question that's come through from a parent and is directed to Agnes. And you touched upon this at the beginning, Agnes, but the question is maybe you can share your own personal experience, given that you've got a son that's just started at university in the UK. How easily did he settle? Were there some upset, and how did he overcome those? And how's he getting on right now? You're on mute, Agnes, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we were very anxious. I was anxious. My son is very calm, cool. He wasn't anxious, but I was because I wasn't sure what would happen when we get to school. But he was received very well at the accommodation, and as Cam has alluded, and Nicola, they are very nice accommodations, students' accommodations. And actually remember when we were looking around and we got into the kitchen and we found this other tall man that was the height of my son. And it was a young man from our country. And it was so good. I mean, so my son has settled well. When we went to school, now into the college, to meet the teachers, as you just heard, it is good to go and meet the career teachers there, the head of the school, the dean of students, as we call it here in Kenya. They were waiting for my son. They were so excited to meet him and took him through the whole system. And by the time really I was leaving, I didn't feel like I was leaving my son in the hands of strangers. Of course, I went into the Uber and started crying because I'm leaving my son in the UK. In as much as my daughter is there and they will be together, every parent will feel like that. But I don't feel like my son is with strangers or not taken care of. The security around the university is amazing. You have to have a card to access anything. You can't access the main door. You can't access the class. You have to keep on using your card. So there's a lot of safety. And in the city where my son is, again, he even just walks to the accommodation is so close to his campus. So he walks to his campus. He doesn't have to spend money on Uber. So these are the things that parents need to kind of inquire when they are enrolling the children or even thinking about accommodation. My daughter already, of course, just got her graduate visa come. So again, it's an
Exciting.
exciting thing. Yeah, when she stayed, she decided a little bit later to go into her own apartment, and she's again, there's a lot of safety everywhere. She's okay, and so glad. Yeah, my son settled well. For the parent that is asking, and they can always like chat me. I'm here after all, representing TEE in Africa, and we can chat a little bit more to just reassure parents that they should not believe what they see in the media. UK is a very safe place to study. Thank you,
Thanks.
John.
Thanks, Agnes. Thanks, Cam.
Okay, so I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to go quite quickly through this. The application for the UK is quite straightforward. Students apply through UCAS, which is an online application. And they include some personal details, their educational history and employment, and they can include up to 5 universities, 4 if it's medicine, vet, or dentistry. I think it's important to point out that the course they apply to should be similar or the same for each university, which might be different for other countries, but for the UK, it should be focused on one particular course. So there are 2 different deadlines. There's an early deadline if you're applying for medicine, vet, science, dentistry, Oxford or Cambridge, and that's the 15th of October. And the regular deadline is the 14th of January. They should look at the entry requirements. They will be there'll definitely be academic entry requirements, but they may need to have some skills or some work experience depending on the course. I think courses like vet science or healthcare obviously will need skills as well as a bit of work experience. Increasingly, there are more admissions tests, so students need to look at those carefully and definitely prepare for the admissions tests. For medicine, it's the UCAT, and then there's a whole host of other admissions tests depending on which university. If it's a high-ranking one like Oxford, Cambridge, or Imperial, there are various requirements. And then students will receive a conditional offer if they haven't finished school yet, which will indicate what grades they need to get, or if they finish school and they're applying after that, they will get an unconditional acceptance. They will accept their offers in May usually, and then their place will be confirmed when they get their results, and then they will apply for a student visa, which is a fairly straightforward process. So this is the most important part of a UK application for students because it's the time, the place where you tell the universities about yourself. Sometimes students get despondent because they might hear that admissions officers don't spend very much time reading their personal statements. And often students say to me, oh, I put so much effort in, and then they didn't bother to read it. But I think it's important for students to understand that the more competitive the university is, they usually spend more time reading the personal statement. And the personal statement can also be very important if a student narrowly misses an offer. Universities will then go back to that statement, review it very carefully, and make a decision either to accept or reject that student. So I always emphasize to the students that this statement is very, very important. Recently, they have changed the structure of the statement. So now it is more student friendly and the students have 3 questions to answer. I think this part of the application is really, really good if you work with a counsellor to get some ideas going, because students often come and they say, oh, I haven't really done anything. And then you sit there and you sort of tease out of them what it is about the course that they really, really like and what they've actually done. And then you think about how you're going to present this to the university. And I think that's where counsellors who are experienced with working with young people can really, really help to improve and guide students to present something really, really good in their statements. So I think that's about all from me. If there are any questions, I can definitely
Thanks.
answer them.
Thanks, Cam. That was excellent, along with Nicola. We've got about 5 minutes left. If anyone has any questions, then pop them into the Q&A channel, and I'll be very happy to answer those. So one of the questions that's just come in And maybe we can deal with it in order. So schools first, Nicola, if that's okay, and then Cam. But one of the questions was, I'm curious to know how medically related matters and emergencies are handled within boarding schools, and obviously within universities, slightly different because boarding schools are under 18s technically, and the universities, the students are treated as adults. So, Nicola, how are medical emergencies dealt with and or medical matters dealt with in boarding schools typically?
Yeah, that's a really fantastic question and really worth asking because most schools, and this is something that should be asked in the early onset of your application, most schools have their own what we call sick bay, which is a nurse's or a doctor's area. All of the students that attend that school have to provide a medical form. So as part of the admissions process, we would gather all the medical information from you as a family. It would go to the nurse or the doctor, and then the house parents, so the house mistress or the housemaster, they all absolutely understand any medical situations that they need to know about, any allergies, anything to do with dietary requirements. All of that is known by the school. So we in the summer, when we're gathering all the information before your child starts school, the medical information is really important, and that will not slip through the cracks. That is something that we absolutely insist as schools that you give all of that information. If there's an emergency, again, the schools are affiliated with GP surgeries, and if it's a situation where they need to go to the hospital, then the house parents and the school would organise that too. So your child will always be really well looked after in school.
Thanks, Nicola.
So for the universities, usually there is a health centre on campus, and as part of the Welcome Week, students will register with their GP. Um, as a mother of a hockey player, I have thoroughly tested all of the emergency procedures because my son had a hockey incident and did go to accident and emergency and was treated very well. And I was particularly impressed with how the university handled it because he was given restrictions because he'd experienced concussion. So they did take it really, really seriously. So I think they're very well equipped for dealing with emergencies and generally any health related issues.
Thanks, Cam. And it's safe to say that any student that enrolls in a university in the UK is also covered by the NHS as well. So again, if it's an emergency, they'll get world-class treatment. Great, thanks both. So another question coming in. Maybe this is something that I can answer. One of the questions is, do the same standards apply to UK campuses located outside of the UK, like Malaysia, for example? And secondly, what's the best approach when looking for a scholarship? So maybe if you can both answer the scholarship piece in relation to boarding schools and universities. In terms of UK university campuses outside of the UK, got a lot of experience of this, and there are some wonderful campuses outside of the UK in places like Singapore, KL, Hanoi, Dubai, etc., and more growing up in other parts of the world, including India. If I'm being completely honest, they don't compare. You know, the universities in the UK are very well established. Their academics are proven, and they're in very world-class facilities and campuses. Think any campus that's overseas, yes, of course, they're using the intellectual property of the university. And of course, they have academics from around the world and some from the mothership university, but they can't compare really to the UK universities. It's just not possible. And I think whilst the accreditation and the equivalency in terms of the qualifications that they get are the same, it's just not the same experience because you just can't replicate Bristol University or Warwick or Edinburgh or even Oxford or Cambridge in another part of the world is just not feasible. So you do get a very high standard of education at an equivalent university internationally through the UK universities, but it's not going to be the same experience. But many of these universities do offer the opportunity to spend 1 year in country before transferring to the UK. And so that is very much a fact that I think is very appealing to students and one that's worth exploring as well. In terms of scholarships, Cam, do you want to talk about universities first in terms of how you go about applying for scholarships? Is it before you get an offer, just like in the US, or is it very much after the offer has been made and you've accepted?
Unfortunately, it depends completely on the university. So you have to look at the university and check the scholarship system. What I would say is, for example, universities like Warwick have a very good scholarship scheme for international students. And for that one, the students have to bring in a lot of the activities that they've done at school and sort of tailor them to the activities that are happening at the university. Because what universities are looking for is students who will get really passionately involved in all the activities going on at the university. So a good tip for scholarship applications is presenting what you bring to that specific university and sort of aligning it with what they have on offer.
Thanks, Cam. And scholarships for boarding schools, Nicola?
Yes, I echo what Cam has just said. It's quite similar with the schools also in the UK. In terms of timing, each school is different. If it's an academic scholarship that a family is pursuing, then they quite often have to sit the entrance test and they then wait for all of the results to come in for that cohort. And then they decide who would be sort of worthy of a scholarship, academic scholarship. In terms of sports and drama, again, it's down to the individual schools, but I always say, always ask. Don't let it just pass you by if it's something that you're interested in. There is a confusion as well sometimes over scholarship and financial assistance. So when parents ask about a scholarship, we then get down to asking more questions, and it turns out that they're interested in financial assistance. But I have the same sort of rule of thumb, always ask, because you never know what might be on offer. It can change from year to year, because obviously the children change from year to year. You might have sports girls and boys 1 year, and then you get somebody coming in who is a budding actor. So always ask at the very earliest point and say that you're interested in a scholarship for sport or drama or music or whatever academics. And then we will put that to the schools to see what they have on offer.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. That's just past the hour, and that's all the questions that we've had. Thank you so much for the detail and the passion and the insight. I really enjoyed that, and even as an experienced headmaster and consultant within the schools and university space, I've learned an awful lot tonight, and it's been a great refresher. We had quite a large attendance, so that was pleasing too. But thank you very much for your input and for your insights. And Agnes, thank you very much for joining us as well. Looking forward to our new partnership. You will receive a copy of the webinar and also the slide deck or the presentation. And I'll be in touch over the next couple of days. If you'd like to have a free, no obligations consultancy call, then I'm very happy to talk with you, as is Nicola, and I'm sure Cam will be as well. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this evening. Thank you to Cam, to Nicola, to Agnes, and I
Thank
hope
you.
that you have a very peaceful end to term and a lovely Christmas and New Year, and we hopefully look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you very much, everyone. Nice to
Thank
see
you,
you
John.
all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.